Gonna get into a spoiler-free movie review now. I'm joined by my wife, Kelsey. How are you?
I'm great.
You ready to talk about A Man Called Otto?
Oh, I loved this movie.
So this movie is about Tom Hanks' character. He's this grumpy old guy who just lost his wife, and now he just goes around kind of being rude to everybody. Is that how you would describe his character?
Yeah, he's a little bit of like a curmudgeon.
And he lives in this small little community, and I wasn't expecting it to go from light to dark as the movie did.
It did, but it didn't go like, it was dark, but it's hard to describe. Like the darkness never really felt as dark because it was just like interwoven and then it would be over and like interrupted.
The weird part of this movie is it goes from these very dark scenes of this guy who is dealing with these very dark thoughts. He's dealing with this. Basically, the reason he is so grumpy is because he's depressed and grieving the loss of his wife. And it goes from depicting that, which I think they do actually a really great job of showing what it feels like to be in that situation. And somebody who has dealt with depression like I have, like that's a great depiction of it, of feeling like you're in a really dark place, but then sometimes when you're with other people, you're able to snap out of it. And when they showed that, I was like, wow, I haven't really seen that in a movie of this caliber before. And I wasn't really expecting it, especially from Tom Hanks. I'd never questioned his ability as an actor, but I think just him doing a movie like that kind of spoke to me in a way.
Yeah, and I felt like it really depicted like the raw feelings of grief. And this isn't a spoiler, but one of the lines that he says was, his wife was his whole life, and he's like, there's no life after her. And I just, that broke my heart.
So he's dealing with that at the beginning of the movie, and then this family moves in across the street. The mom is Marisol, and they're a Mexican-American family. And that's kind of where he changes his perspective on life. He has now these people living across the street, and he's trying to help them out also while dealing with all these things that he's going through. So it's the back and forth. And what I really liked about his character was all the little things he still did, even though he was so grumpy, making his rounds, which is what he does every day. Even though he is not really loving life right now, every day he still does the same thing. He shovels his walk. He goes all around.
He picks up all the things that have been put in the wrong spots in recycling and puts them in the correct container.
It basically goes around and is a jerk to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's unlike, I kind of like Tom Hanks in his 60s more than I liked him in any other decade of his life.
Because it's a great era of Tom Hanks.
It really is. I don't think he's taken the best movies in his 60s, but the roles he has really nailed, I really enjoy. I love me 60-year-old Tom Hanks.
But this was one of his best movies.
It really was. In the last 10 years, I've been pretty hit or miss when it comes to enjoying Tom Hanks movies. But this one, the character alone, which I talked about in the segment before this, all my favorite Tom Hanks characters, quickly made it into my top 5. But maybe even this movie made it into my top 10 Tom Hanks movies of all time, which it is still a feel-good movie, but it's not really a kid's movie at all.
No, there's some dark parts.
So what else did you enjoy about this?
I thought all the neighbors were just like such a fun like cast of characters. They were just like quirky, and I loved how it made me feel like all of the emotions. Like I've said on here before that I am not a crier during movies. And I have cried in 2 movies, like in the past month, during The Whale and then this. And I'm like, man, these got me. Like, they really got me.
I don't think I ended up crying, but it really made me feel. I think you said the last movie that did this for you was probably Wonder. That movie got me.
Yeah, it made me feel the range of emotions, the exact same range of emotions that Wonder did.
The other part I was thinking about this movie is, with the family who moves across town, they're Mexican. I always have a little bit of trouble enjoying how a director would perceive a Mexican-American family, just because I am. I always feel like it's a little bit like over heightened on all like the inflections in the language, the references to food. It always feels like almost like a not stereotype of what I'm used to, or just the way,
like a caricature of
kind of like a caricature. But I felt like this movie required that, since it is based on a book. I feel like when you make a movie based on a book, all those characters are kind of fleshed out that way, because that's what you kind of have to do with a book. You really have to amplify all their qualities. So when it comes to them, saying words in Spanish, I feel like that has to exist in the book version. And then they took a lot from that to make this movie. So I was okay with it because even when it came to some of the other neighbors, like the guy who exercises at the same time every day, the way he walks
that guy.
and the way he talks, like that was also a heightened version of that kind of neighbor. So I felt like all those things fit together where they were all supposed to be really big, larger than life characters in order to get this story across. So I was good with it there. I found those moments really kind of endearing. And I felt like it was pretty authentic when it even came to like the foods that they talked about. So I actually really like that part.
I will say I haven't read the book yet, but I don't know if the family in the book is Mexican American because the book is set in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
The author, or it's called A Man Called Ove. Probably pronouncing that wrong. I should ask my Swedish friend Nick. But I'm on the wait list at the library to read it. Normally I do book first, then the movie, but went off script here.
I guess I didn't realize how much I needed this movie until we watched it. And I feel like this movie will go pretty overlooked this year because it came out in January. And even though you have Tom Hanks, A-list actor, big name, I feel like this is one that's going to slip through the cracks for a lot of people. But everybody I've seen who has gone to see it has loved it. It's just weird when such a great movie like this comes out so early in the year that you almost want it to get more attention. And I know Tom Hanks is fine. He's not struggling to make money. But I just feel like a movie like this
deserves to be seen. Like, it's not even about the success of the movie. It's just like, you need to go see this movie. It is so good.
And there are very few movies that come out that tell a story and depict certain things, and it would just be beneficial for more people to see, to understand this. That is the reason I feel like more people should go check this movie out. So if you're on the fence about it now, we both highly recommend it. If you just need something to make you laugh, need something that'll make you cry a little bit, and need just a really unusual character that you will be rooting for and really enjoying. Like, even though he is a jerk, he is so lovable and endearing, and it just comes off as being just funny, all the things he does.
Kind of reminded me of my grandpa, of Peepaw, a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is kind of like, while watching this is what I realized that I want to be when I'm older.
Grumpy?
Grumpy. Not even not so much the grumpy part, but just the part that has like these routines. Like, once we're retired, we can do whatever we want. I feel like I will fall into a routine like Otto did, of doing the same thing all the time.
We're already such routine people. I don't see that changing.
I know. I just feel like myself getting more and more into it. And it also brought up the question that we talked about, when one of us goes before the other.
No, we're going to talk about this? This makes me sad.
If I put myself in the same situation as Otto, I've already told you that I'm going to be the guy who goes to the Waffle House with the picture of you.
Oh, no.
That is going to be me.
Can I pick the picture now? Like, can we just have like a set photo that I approve?
Yeah, that's always my fear of dying. The photo you guys are going to use of me in my funeral. Pick a good one, please.
Some wedding photos.
But that is what I thought about too. Other takeaways from this movie is you have Truman Hanks making his acting debut. Love me a nepo-baby.
Love a nepo-baby.
So he plays the younger version of Tom Hanks' character. He plays young Otto. And I actually thought he was pretty good in it.
It worked.
It's weird having a very famous dad and now him able to cast his kid in a movie to play the younger version of himself. And it's also weird that his son is 27, which Tom Hanks was 24 when he made his acting debut. But it's just weird to see like a younger version of him and then picture where Tom Hanks was at his career in that time.
But it's the same with Colin Hanks, I feel like, because he looks so much like Tom too.
Yeah, Colin Hanks looks exactly like him.
Colin is like a carbon copy of Tom.
I feel like if you didn't know going into it that it was his son, you could probably think of it after, like, oh, it was it. Like
this one? Yeah. I forgot.
Yeah, because they don't look like, yes, there's a lot of similarities. And once you know, you get it. But it could just be a similarity. Yeah, it could just be, oh, they found a guy who looks exactly close to Tom Hanks, but you wouldn't think he's his son.
Yeah.
But I thought he did a pretty good job. I don't know if he like really wants to get into acting because it is his debut role. He's in his 20s. Almost in his 30s. I don't know if he like wants to do this. It's just weird to have your dad be one of the most famous actors of all time, and then you go and do acting and everybody kind of judges you compared to him. And I feel like a lot of people call out nepo babies online because, oh, you only get to do that because of who your dad is. And I feel like we say that because it's entertainment and what they're doing. is something that's already difficult to get into. But if I started truck driving, nobody would say that to me. Like, oh, you're only being a truck driver because your dad is a truck driver.
Think about like anyone whose dad is like a CEO of something, and although I guess maybe we'd call them out, but
it happens all the time.
I think the other thing is it's about like what you grow up around. Like a lot of actors' kids go the opposite way, and they're like, I grew up around this, I don't want to do this. But I think when you're surrounded by that, like, you just kind of start to learn the craft. I don't think it's just you're thrown into it. Like, it comes with a lot of its own scrutiny. Like, there's probably a lot of people that are like, I don't want the public eye, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, you have to willingly choose that, I think.
And also because your dad is so famous or your mom is so famous, it doesn't automatically mean you're going to have a successful career. It opens up a lot of doors, yes. But there are other kids of famous actors who have done one movie and hasn't really taken off in an acting career. So you also have to have the ability.
Yeah, there has to be talent.
Yeah, still have to have talent. You have to be likable. And you're also always just battling people comparing you to your parents. So I almost feel like if you're going to do it and you have to almost completely separate yourself. Some people will go by a different last name or do something that's no way associated with their parents. He went the other route. He's in a movie with his dad, which I think is pretty cool. Like, I would take up that opportunity to do something like that. So I can't hate on him. I thought he was good in it. What would you rate A Man Called Otto?
4.75 out of 5 luchadores.
Almost perfect.
It was so good. Like, it made me feel, I know I keep saying that, but it like warmed my heart. It felt like a hug. It felt like I described it like those Chicken Soup for the Soul books that had all the like heartwarming stories. That's what it felt like. It felt like I just read an entire Chicken Soup for the Soul book.
I am not one that is always searching out or even at all searching out just a feel-good movie.
That's your least favorite
It's
category.
my least, like, Christmas movies and feel-good movies are the movies that I don't really like. If somebody just says a movie is fun to watch.
And that's my 2 favorite categories.
Yeah, I'm probably not as into it. So I would give this one 4 out of 5 arroz con pollos and mole, which I think is what she gave him in the movie. And I just think that is the max level I can give for a movie like this. Normally, I look for things to challenge me a little bit more. Movies that I like question after I watch them and alter my chemical state a little bit.
It gave you a challenge. It made you feel emotions.
That is true. And that is why I gave it a 4 out of 5. So it did bring out emotions in me. It made me further want to see Tom Hanks do more movies like this in his 60s. Like, I hope he doesn't do any more like action adventure movies or anything where he's on a boat in a war.
Yeah, no more sea. Like, get Tom Hanks off the seas.
I'm out of the sea era of Tom Hanks. I just want to see him do more movies like this because he does it so well. So we both highly recommend A Man Called Otto.